Welcome back to the world of Orbis. This time next week, we're going to be saying that for real. I cannot wait, and I cannot believe we are so close. 7 days away. We're getting into some deep lore about the world today. Now, we've covered a lot of aspects of the world of Hytale on this channel before. If you want to go really in-depth on any of them, I'll link the videos down below if you'd like to take a look. We will be going over the very basic elements of the world at the start of this one, just in case anybody watching doesn't know those parts of the world, because everything that comes next is going to rely on your understanding of that. Now, I will give the preface on this video, just as I have with other ones, that these things are just theories. We just have fun talking about the world and seeing what ideas we can come up with. Some of these are theories that I came up with, and some of these are actually pulled from you guys who have watched, who have left comments under previous videos that I've done. So, let's get into it. Welcome to the world of Hytale. This is Orbis. This is the world that the game takes place on. So, Hytale is ruled over by the deity Gaia. Gaia is the deity of the 5 primary elements of the world of Orbis, as well as light. She's contrasted against Varen of the Void. Now, Varen is a god who seems to have infiltrated Gaia's domain and has either restricted her power or imprisoned her to some degree, and his void magic is a corruptive force in the world of Orbis. You, as the player, are called the Avatar. Now, you have similar abilities to these deities in the world. It's kind of like breaking the fourth wall and giving an explanation to the reason why you are a force in the world that is able to pick up parts of the world and drop them elsewhere in classic sandbox fashion. And so you, as the player, will be confronted with the task of addressing Varen's corruption of Gaia and her world. Now, this here is a bit of iconography related to the game. These symbols come up time and time again, so it's important to get at least a loose grasp on them. Over here, we have the 5 primary elements of the world of Orbis. We have wind, earth, lightning, water, and fire, all of those surrounding the void, Varen's element. Now, I'm going to move my face a little bit here. Over here, these diamonds, you can see the mark of Varen, the evil force in the world, represented by this diamond, or the evil contained with this diamond contained within these other lines. You can see the mark of Gaia down here, which has the 5 prongs representing the 5 elements. Now, these are the zones of the world of Orbis. Think of zones as these different regions on the world, each of which have unique biomes that they contain. So Zone 1, the Emerald Wilds, has just a bunch of lush greenery, rolling fields, rolling hills, meadows, glades, forests, all that good stuff. Zone 2, the Howling Sands, is comprised of deserts, badlands, savannas, mesas. Zone 3, Whisperfrost Frontiers, is glaciers, snow-capped mountains, icy forests and fields. And Zone 4, the Devastated Lands, are volcanoes, lava flows, and ruined landscapes and forests. There are 2 other zones that are rumored to be lightning and void, the final 2 elements of the world. However, these are not going to be in the game at launch. Currently, it is just these 4. Now, the world used to be populated by a bunch of different humans. At the time that the game takes place, all of these humans are dead or gone or both. But there are reanimated skeletons that still live in the human ruins throughout all 4 zones, with these glowing blue eyes. Now, the first theory that we have actually has to do with these and comes from the comment section. I'm going to move my face again. Grim Trickster says, I think the undead were brought back to life by the magic itself, maybe it acting up because Gaia can no longer control them in her current state, because remember, Gaia has been limited in some capacity by Varen and his corruption. I think wind, freedom, is the most likely magic, as in freedom from death itself. Or at least the main one, and why they have a light blue color in their eyes, because they do indeed have a light blue color in their eyes. And wind does stand for freedom in this game. Now, there used to be humans on the world of Orbis, and we can see them here in this concept art. These are 2 NPCs that someday we may be able to meet in the game. Both of these look like they once served Gaia, although Tessa is still in service to Gaia, whereas Kairos here has changed sides and is now corrupted by Varen and the Void. This is going to be important, so put a pin in it, and we're going to come back to this very soon. I'm going to move my face here once again so you can see this artwork. This is concept of Temple of Gaia dungeon. Now, dungeons and other instances like it seem to be things that you can access through different portals in the game. And here we can see Gaia, who is asleep at the top here and also hidden down here in the bottom, imprisoned to some degree by Varen, and you can see those elements of Varen's corruption, which is usually themed with a purple and green color coming through there. We can even see it here in-game, what that actually looks like. So this is a forest in Zone 3, I believe. We can see a normal tree over here, and then over here, Varen's corrupted version, where the exterior is purple, and then that little knot, you can see the inside is actually green. So purple and green, Varen's colors. And you can see things like this throughout the entire world, where Varen's influence is seeping through. Now, interesting little bit of visual storytelling in the logo right here. Let's increase the size a little bit. So I think this right here is the new logo. So you can see Gaia on the left-hand side over here. In the artwork, you can see the symbol of the evil contained here in the middle. You can see down here the face of Varen at the bottom right-hand side, and at the top, the sun of Orbis, which is a symbol that we see later as well. So put a pin in that and remember it also. You can also see on both sides of this, the designs here look very much like the runes used for the fawns in the iconography concept art. Knights of the Broken Order. Now, this is something that I've touched on before, but we're going to dive into it a little bit more because we have some new information that we got recently. You can see in this concept art, like we said before, there used to be humans. Some kept with Gaia, some broke away from Gaia and began to serve Varen, and some sort of schism happened inside of their order. And you can see in human structures, human ruins left throughout the world of Orbis, there are still these Gaian banners left from who they used to worship there. Bear with me here because there's a little bit to unpack, okay? This is the architecture and building blocks used by the humans in Zone 1. So these are the sorts of ruins that you'll find skeletons inside of Zone 1, living in the ruins left behind when there used to be living humans there. This is what a Gaian portal looks like in the game. We actually have seen one of these in gameplay footage released so far. It's there in the background. Let's blow it up a little bit. You can see it's got that same white dome, and there's even a statue of Gaia out front. We've seen some of these statues before. We know the shape of them, and this is almost definitely one of those. The interesting thing here is that the block palette and the design, the architecture is completely different for the both of these, which seems to suggest that these Knights of the Broken Order, like Tessa and Kairos, for example, were a different group of humans, or maybe came before the other humans that left those tan ruins behind. So we can see that inside of these white ruins there is a portal that takes you to the instance where perhaps Gaia is imprisoned or that corruption is taking place. And there's also this reference for memory mirrors. It's very interesting because we get a couple songs that potentially reference these. First of all, we have a song in the soundtrack called Knights of the Broken Order. Pretty self-explanatory. These are probably the knights that served Gaia. Some kept with Gaia, some broke away and served Varen. There's also this song called Reflection. Now, this could mean any number of things. It could be a reach to apply them to the memory mirrors, but it could be cool if those mirrors are a chance for the player to experience something that happened in the past and get a little bit of a world building and explanation as to how all of these events occurred. Now, when you pass through a portal in one of these buildings, it could take you to something like a Garden of Elements here in this concept art. This is something that we've actually seen in the game, inside of the trailer released all the way back in 2018. And now they said they're trying to deliver, not even trying, they are going to deliver on the promise of the trailer first and foremost as they're developing the game, which means this is something that in some shape or form we will get to experience. Here, you can see these 5 pillars representing different elements, all of which have been corrupted by this void magic, which you can see its purple presence here in the golem. Your task here as the avatar is to help some of Gaia's creatures, like these Quebecs, defeat Varen's corruptive presence. This leads us to the Forgotten Temple. This is splash text that shows up in the game when you enter a new region or area, or maybe even a new structure in the game. This is what you see when you enter something that we were shown, I believe last week. We got footage of this. Edge of the Echo, Forgotten Temple. Now, This is interesting in innumerable ways, so bear with me as we walk through all of this and relate it back to the Knights of the Broken Order. This is what we saw in that footage. First of all, right in the foreground, we get a statue of Gaia. You can see the 5 prongs of the 5 different elements. You can also see the sun that she's holding. Remember when I said that sun in the logo would come back? It is right there in her grasp. You can even, if you look very, very closely at this structure down at the bottom, you can see there is a little 5-pronged statue there at the base, which we've seen, I believe, in the creative menu before. So this is a block that you'd be able to use in the game. And you can see this grand white architecture with these pillars and colonnades back there, and then this tan structure up in the front. Now, presumably, you would be able to use some sort of portal to get in and out of this location. This is where it gets interesting. So people have theorized that this might be a starting location for you in the game, because it was revealed to us by Simon, I believe through a Canadian Flash video, that you don't begin the game in the world of Orbis. And so it could be that you begin in this place that is relevant to Gaia, and then you progress through a portal into the actual world of Orbis and begin your adventure there in the world. We know that these portals can be used to access different parts of the world, and potentially even other worlds as well. And we can see the fragments that the player has down here, and then holding them here, fragment for Bleak Root Bog through an ancient gateway. Now, in the new blog post that we got, let's scroll up a little bit here. This is a blog post on version 2 of World Generation, so that's what it means when it says V2 right here. So players will be able to see and experience version 2 content that is under construction by visiting fragments of Orbis through gateways in exploration mode. Right here we can see a fragment and a gateway literally being used. So these will be able to take you to different locations in the game. Perhaps you use something like this to begin your move into the world of Orbis in the first place. We also have this concept art of altar verses, which, back at the blog post, let's scroll all the way down here. This has been confirmed, or reconfirmed, I guess, to be in the game, which is so exciting that eventually you'll be able to break away from Orbis and explore these other worlds, which I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. Now, there's a lot to unpack with these worlds as well. For example, Nexus being the colors of Varen and the Void, that purple and green combination, and Nexus literally meaning the thing that you have to pass through to get to all places, or something that interconnects all places. And in the iconography, it is surrounded, the Void is surrounded by all the other elements. We have Numdrasil, which, given those white pillars, looks very reminiscent of something that Gaia would live in, given that her temples also have those grand white pillars that we've seen from the trailer footage and from concept art. Numdrasil also is a very Norse-sounding name. Don't know if that has any gameplay relevance, but it is interesting. Karpak we'll get to later, because somebody presented a theory to me about Karpak that we're going to explore a little bit. Torbalin is also a little bit interesting, because Torbalin, I did a little research, translates to strong rock, which also relates to another theory later on in here. Now, back to this temple. What does all that mean for this? First of all, I have to tell you what was revealed to me in a dream. Over the holiday break, I had a dream that when you begin the game, you begin in a stone building. Now, I did not see anything outside like this. I was just inside of a stone building, and then you progress through a sort of underground tunnel that then transports you into the world of Orbis, and you emerge into Zone 1. It kind of turns into a Zone 1 cave, and then you emerge into it, and then from there you progress into Zone 2. That's what happened in my dream, and I just gotta say right here and now, if anything like that happens in the actual game, I need my credit where credit is due. Okay, I need to be heralded as a prophet. There is a little bit of music that plays over this footage. The footage is literally just it progressing from day to night. It's a beautiful transition. Go check it out. It's on Simon's Twitter if you haven't seen it yet. But in the beginning of it, thank you, Wins, for helping me out with these songs, you can hear the song Genesis, which means beginning, which makes sense if this is a spawn location, and then hints of Sleeping Creator and Arrival. which also make a lot of sense for this to be a starting location. There's also a couple other tracks in the official Hytale soundtrack called Dead Echoes 1 and 2, which is very interesting given that this region is called an echo of Orbis. So maybe this is a location that used to be used for Gaia, has now fallen into disrepair now that Gaia's Order of Knights is gone and all the humans are dead, and now you are rediscovering that dead echo of Orbis and bringing it back to life through your role as an avatar in the game. Now, back to this tower that I showed you before. Remember how this is indicative of the sort of structure and style of the buildings that humans in Zone 1 lived in, and now that the human skeletons in Zone 1 live in. And then we have the white structure that is the sort of style that those Knights of the Broken Order would have used in order to reach these temples of Gaia. You can see both of those styles represented in this image, which really caught my eye as I was watching this, because you can see those grand white pillars that are so indicative of something to do with Gaia and her temples. You can see that building material here as well, and then you can see the tan building material that's used very specifically for Zone 1 human ruins in Orbis, which seems to suggest that this place was built by humans, maybe a combination of the humans that lived in those ruins and the Order of Gaia and the Knights of the Broken Order worked in tandem to construct this structure. Even those windows up there at the very top of that tower look very reminiscent to the windows at the top of this mage tower as well. There's a couple other things that we can unpack in this as well. First of all, we got this sketch and concept art of a anti-gravity arm. This is something that I brought up in the magic video, but I think it's something worth touching on here again, because you can literally see that there are floating rocks in the background here. And I thought, okay, is that the first time that we've seen something like that in-game, outside of some ideas that there will eventually be floating islands in future zones added to the game? And yes, I think we have. All the way back here, in the footage from the trailer, you can see floating chunks of stone behind this area that is supposed to be dedicated for Gaia. And then again, you see it here in a temple that is most definitely dedicated to Gaia. There's one other thing that we can parse out from this new bit of footage, and that is that tree back there. So the Quebecs are basically living plants that are devoted to Gaia, which makes a lot of sense because their whole lifestyle revolves around their emerging from the earth and returning to the earth. They even have, ignore the gun, they have statues of Gaia. You can see one right there within their little homes, their tree houses and so on. So they still worship her to this day, and their homes often take the form of these enormous trees that have these platforms with lanterns dangling from ropes. And that tree looks so similar to what we have here, and if you look closely, you can even see those dangling ropes with lanterns hanging off of them. And given the fact that we saw Quebecs in the other place that was devoted to Gaia that had floating chunks of stone in the air, and here we see what looks like a Quebec home in a place devoted to Gaia with floating chunks of stone in the air, it looks like we're looking at a very similar type of place as what we saw even in the gameplay footage, a place where the construction of the buildings, the architecture, and the materials used match up with the Knights of the Broken Order and something that they would have constructed in their attempts to honor Gaia. Now that that order is broken, now that Gaia is imprisoned, this is now a lost echo of Orbis that you, as the player, get to rediscover. On to our next theory. This has to do with the golems. So I did a little bit of research for this video, and so throughout mythology and folklore, golems are creatures that are constructed by somebody to serve out a certain purpose. So typically they're made of earthen materials, and the golems in the game are exactly like that. They are constructed out of rock. Different elemental focuses, but all still made of the earth, right? Very Gaian of them. And then it made me wonder, these creatures, they're made out of rock, they're very intimidating, they're very strong. They could have been constructed by those knights long ago. But the other thing that struck me is that perhaps there was some influence from the place that's literally called Strong Rock, that's name translates to Strong Rock, and then there's living strong rocks in the world of Orbis. I might be connecting things that shouldn't be connected, that were not intended to be connected. But this is just how my brain works. Magic related to the time of day. This got started when I saw a track related to the Quebecs. So like I said, the Quebecs are these plant-like creatures that have a very deep love for Gaia and the natural world. They begin as these seedlings that drop from these adult-rooted trees, and they go through their life cycle and then eventually have the opportunity to become what is called a tree singer. Now, a tree singer is a Quebec that seems to possess some amount of magic and serves as a line of communication between these very still and silent, rooted old trees and the new seedlings and young and maturing Quebecs that emerge from those trees. Now, this makes the tree singer a very pivotal part of the Quebec lifestyle because it's how they keep their wisdom, basically, their generational knowledge that they get to pass down to their children, to the seedlings. They do, in previous versions of the tree singers, they definitely possessed staffs. There's still a staff in this concept art here, though I haven't seen the new tree singers wielding any staffs. But despite that, there is still this track by Oscar Garvin in the Hytale soundtrack titled Tree Singer Moonlight Ceremony. So I was thinking, okay, so the tree singers do some sort of ceremony in the world of Orbis. It takes place at nighttime. It's a very specific detail to include, that it's in the moonlight. Not just tree singer ceremony or tree singer magical ceremony, but tree singer moonlight ceremony. And I was thinking, okay, is there any other type of ceremony in the game that occurs at night? And yes, there is. These are the Outlanders. They are a breakaway human faction in the world of Orbis and are the closest thing to living humans that we have actually seen in the game. They're not quite human anymore because we'll get into it. At nighttime, their fires turn green. Now, like we've already said, green and purple are the colors of Varen, and the Outlanders worship Varen. You can see his diamond-shaped symbol on their banners, again, green and purple. Now, the Outlanders live in Zone 3, which is based around the element of water, and they use this corrupted water, corrupted by Varen's magic, in order to carry out arcane rituals in the bowels of their towns in which they sacrifice people and mutate members of their own community into these very monstrous-looking creatures. You can see those green fires burning in the background, indicating that it is, in fact, nighttime. With the power of Varen, in the middle of the night with their green fire and their purple water, they perform ceremonies at the same time of day that it seems like the tree singers are. Next theory, Nexus and the Void. We've already established that Nexus has Varen's color scheme. It's got the purple and the green. I don't think it's a big stretch to imagine that that is Varen's home base, and that his creatures, like these Void Eyes, come from Nexus in order to infiltrate the world of Orbis. The other theory that I saw posed by somebody that was very interesting, now I can't remember where I saw this, but is the idea that Nexus belongs to Varen and Numdrasil belongs to Gaia, and that both of them are together fighting over Orbis, and it's this kind of tug of war that you, as the avatar, as the player, get to play a role in and kind of pick a side, which is a very interesting idea. But I think it's a very easy sell that these otherworldly Lovecraftian creatures came from another planet and then came here to influence the world of Orbis. Now, this next one is a very short theory. Wraiths look related to crawlers. I don't think this one's very hard to swallow. This appears to be a wraith. I don't think this is 100% confirmed, but it's the likelihood. Now, the Wraith has that same horned head as a creature literally called a Varen spawn in the game, and it's got this misty little torso and then these two arms. That's all there is to the creature. I know it looks in the screenshot like there could be more around the tree. There isn't. This is what they look like. There is another creature from Varen, from the Void, that looks very much like this, and that is the Crawler, that only has a head, a torso, and these two arms, suggesting that these could be related creatures. One corporeal and one ethereal. The origin of the Scarix. This also comes from the comment section by Ojisan. I hope one of those is correct, but The Scarix live in Zone 2, and they are these insectoid creatures that got an update during Riot's time owning this game. Now, it's unclear exactly how the story of the Scarix is going to play out in the game because there's been some hints that their role in the game might be under review, and we don't really know if the story is going to lean towards their original version or the version that Riot had for them. But when Riot updated them, they did so under the pretense of them feeling alien, like they don't belong in the world of Orbis. And you can see in this concept art, this is a nest, a Scarix nest that looks very otherworldly. Now, they have other temples as well. They have temples that have been constructed presumably by Pharans who, in the current lore of the game, have been enslaved by the Scarix and have been forced to carry out the construction of these things. But these nests are clearly built by the Scarix themselves, this organic material. Now, the Scarix, these are the old versions of them, but their models have been updated to look like this. I'm going to move my face a little bit. They look very alien, very otherworldly, especially these new designs. They really don't look like they belong in the world of Orbis, and given the way that they take over the landscape, they hurt other races around them, it makes sense that they don't belong here. They don't get along with the rest of the world. They don't know how to work in tandem with the rest of it like so many of the native races seem to be able to do. This person believes, then, that the Scarix came from another world and that other world is Karpak. I don't know why Karpak specifically. Your guess is as good as mine, or maybe they come from another one of these worlds instead, or something completely different that isn't even on here. But it is a very fascinating theory to wonder where these creatures did come from. Zone 2's enormous skeletons. In Zone 2, once again around the Scarix, you can see these ruined sections where they have built their nests. We're going to see what this looks like in the actual game in a moment, but you can see through this map view that these regions are littered with enormous skeletons. Now, this is different from where they have their sandstone temples. Those seem devoid of the skeletons, but where they have their nests, the skeletons are very dense. Every once in a while you see some that are outside of the bounds of that, but usually they are most highly concentrated within these Scarix-affected regions. Their nests are comprised of organic material, and it seems like they do something to change the landscape around them in order to create this. We can see here a big vista that includes this very clearly. We have the Scarix nest, we have their ruined landscape around them that they've done something to, and we have these giant skeletons, which leaves two main explanations for these skeletons. One, there used to be enormous creatures roaming Zone 2, the Howling Sands landscape, long ago. The biggest things that we've seen in-game are dinosaurs and dragons, which pale in comparison to the size of these skeletons. It's hard to tell from the shape of the skeletons what these creatures might have been. But if they did used to roam the world, the Scarix have killed them all off. The second explanation is, if the Scarix did come from another world, that they brought these creatures with them and used them as some sort of food source before they established themselves in the world of Orbis. Both fascinating ideas with so much story potential and lore repercussions. What is the truth? You know as much as I do now. Also in Zone 2, in the section of the soundtrack that seems to just contain Zone 2 songs, you find the song Sands of Time, which makes a lot of sense. It seems like these dunes hide so much history beneath them, waiting to be uncovered. Gaia's living world. We already talked a little about the Quebecs, which come from the Earth and eventually return to the Earth, going through this life cycle that is entirely tree-like. They are living plants. There's no other way to describe it. They are just living plants. They are born as seeds. They eventually die as trees. However, they're not the only example of something like this happening in the game. In addition to the Quebecs, we have cacti, which is a living cactus that lives in Zone 2. It seems to be a little bit mischievous, as it seems to enjoy sneaking up on players weeping angel style, but just like the Quebecs, it is fully conscious and also a plant. Now, there's one new picture that I'm going to throw in here. This is from the latest blog post. This is an example of something that they are working on adding into the game. This is not experimental. This is not just modding capability, this is something that they're developing with their World 2 generation with the intention of bringing it into the base game. It's incredible. This looks like a Zone 3 landscape, and you can see, even according to the name of the picture, this is a tree. It looks like it once was an enormous tree, and this is just the trunk, basically. And you can see the roots here. They look like a bunch of legs. I really don't think that the way that they're built, the way that they look, is coincidental. I'm sure that that's intentional. It looks like this tree long ago could have had the capability, before it was killed, to crawl across the landscape. Again, another element of these plants literally coming to life with Gaia's power in the world of Orbis. Zone 4's devastation. Zone 4 is literally called the Devastated Lands. Now, devastated seems to imply that they were not always that way, that something happened to them in order for them to become this fiery volcanic landscape. We know that they have volcanoes in them, and it could be as simple as the volcanoes blew up. That's possible. We've got all these lava flows all over the place where the ground has been ruined by eruptions. All that's left now are these skeletons that used to live here when there were once living humans. However, I wonder if the humans didn't have a role to play in their own devastation. These humans seem to have a very brutal culture. Right up here, you can see, I believe this is called a gibbet, where people would be hung from a cage off the side of a tower. This is something that actually did happen in real life as a punishment, a severe punishment. And it looks like Zone 4's culture did this. We can also see in the background, it looks like a coliseum here. Altogether, it looks like they had a very brutal culture when they were still alive. Now, on their armor, we also get the symbol of Gaia. This is common throughout the entire world. We see this repeatedly. But what's interesting here is that it looks like we get this particular symbol of Gaia, which has a triangle on the bottom. The triangles are the symbol of fire. All of these humans seem to have that triangular symbol supporting the other elements on their Gaian iconography on their clothing. And this happens all throughout the entire world. And I wonder if that doesn't signify that they began to kind of lean towards that, particularly in Zone 4, and that led to their downfall. We can even see right here that this skeleton looks like she got bandaged up from some burns before she finally died and then was reanimated. In the background of this photo, we can see there's a skeleton back here who has a wide-brimmed metal hat. We see this again as the player walks towards this burnt-down forest. You can see the owner of this skeletal hunting dog has that same wide-brimmed hat, living in Zone 4. He's got this musket or rifle of some kind, implying that Zone 4 had gunpowder, had explosives. And I don't think it's a big stretch to imagine that exacerbated their problem and led to their own downfall. That gunpowder and explosive technology has lived on in the goblins in the game that live underground. Now, the interesting thing about the goblins is that they don't really seem to do much creating of their own. They seem to hoard. They steal things, they collect things, which means if they're in possession of gunpowder and explosives, the likelihood is that the knowledge of how to obtain that and how to use that, and maybe even the items themselves, came from humans. One other interesting thing, and I don't entirely know what to make of this, is that in the recent PvP footage, we can see a couple players that are fighting inside of a temple built into a volcano in Zone 4. We can see all these skeletons here at the doorway. But the interesting thing here is that in this temple, there is this building that looks to be in the shape of a human. Typically, when we see something like this in human structures in the game so far, they have been either related to Varen, like the Outlanders, or to Gaia, like the other human ruins and other species like the Quebecs. This is clearly neither of them. It's just a person, which does make me wonder if this is some sort of hint that the humans of Zone 4 began to detach themselves from the deity that they had so long worshipped and began to hold themselves at a higher standard, even above Gaia, that they began to think themselves worthy of that pedestal, and maybe that played a part in their destruction as well. Slothian Dino Riders. The Slothians are an anthropomorphic sloth species that live far beneath the devastated fiery surface of Zone 4 in these lush, vibrant, bioluminescent caves. We can see that the Slothians do live alongside bioluminescent dinosaurs. We can see a couple instances in the gameplay footage that we've gotten so far where it looks like there are bamboo ladders that lead up to small platforms. So the Slothians have evolved alongside of these creatures. They've learned to live with them, and so they have methods for managing them. They seem to be very adept fighters. They seem to be, putting these places around themselves where they can evade the dinosaurs, getting off the ground level and getting out of their way. We can also see that they have these parts of their towns where there is the Slothian face that is placed directly above a rendition in bamboo of a dinosaur's face. It's been a pretty popular rumor so far that the Slothians might ride dinosaurs, and Hytale, please make it happen. I would love to see it. I don't think it's in the base game right now. I need it. I want to see it so badly. We can see, I think in the background right over here, there's another one of those bamboo columns that leads up to another platform. We also, in this similar vein, got a couple new glimpses of dinosaurs recently. So this was in a video from Rhea. If you've not seen it, she's an amazing sculptor in the community and makes incredible art. You should totally check out the video. We also got a glimpse at these new pterosaurs. Now, this landscape is not indicative of things that you would find inside the game. This is a modded landscape just to demonstrate what is possible with the game's modding tools. Live modding tools, by the way. You can just do this while you're in the game. But very cool to think that these pterosaurs may be flying through the enormous underground caverns of Zone 4 as well. There's even another little connection that I saw here. So over here in this new blog post, also this is the new stuff coming to World Generation. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. In this blog post, we get a little glimpse of a flying whale. Now the whale does not actually fly in the game, and it is not actually at this scale, although this looks absolutely epic. What we do get is the same whale that is instead in the oceans. Now, if you look very closely at it, both here and in the video, it's got the same sort of head fronds, glowing head spikes as the dinosaurs have, which is very cool that this seems to have evolved in multiple species in the world of Orbis. Now that is the end of our proper theories. The last few here are just just a couple cool images that I'd like to show off as well. This is from the new blog post. This is a henge, so meaning a circle of standing stones, that looks to be in Zone 3. This is also something that they seem to be intent on bringing into the game, given that they've shared it with us in their new developments within the World Generation that they have planned for the base game. There are these circular elements that are made, it looks of crystal blocks. These are crystal blocks from the game. And we know that crystals seem to have some sort of significance with standing stones in other areas of the game. We've seen them in much more tame-looking circles of standing stones than this. This is epic. This is on another level. Very excited to see where this goes in-game. We also got this photo. If you have watched all of these Hytale videos I have on my channel, you know that I've had quite a journey trying to figure out where the Scarix live. Not the Scarix, the Farrens. Where the Farrens live and what their houses look like. These are definitely Farren houses, right? These three on top of these little stone spires. I think those are Farren houses, which is very cute. I'm very excited about that. And then lastly, we know now that moss horns also spawn in Zone 1, which I'm very excited about. If you don't know, moss is kind of my thing. I need to collect the moss horns in my mossy cloak as soon as this game drops. Speaking of which, if you haven't heard, I'm absolutely thrilled to say that you can use code Bredley at checkout when purchasing Hytale and Hytale upgrades and Hytale cosmetics if you'd like to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for your support so far, and next week we get into building, exploration, and even more deep dives on the world and the story that it hints at. I cannot believe that we're so close, and I'm so excited to go on this adventure through Orbis with you. Thank you for watching, And if you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you so soon in the actual world of Orbis. I can't believe it.